A trend for animes is starting to form, and that is adapting anime arcs as movies. I blame you for this, Demon Slayer. Anyways, whether you like it or not, this method is starting to grow because money. So that has me wondering. The Kagurabachi anime is highly anticipated, and it will only get more popular when the anime actually does come out. Probably popular enough to get a movie. Some of you may not want me to speak that into existence. Sorry, my bad, y'all. But let me explain. I am the Kagurabachi girl, but I do have other things that I love. Fun fact, I love movies. I'm one of those people who talk about AMC A-list like I'm spreading the gospel. I have Letterboxd open as the credits are still rolling, okay? I'm annoying like that. So while a lot of other anime fans do not enjoy anime movies and prefer episodes, I love me a theatrical event. Are most anime movies good movies? Well, no. But any excuse to go to a theater in a costume gets a thumbs up for me. I am fully aware that anime is almost always better in an episodic format, but we gotta face the music. The possibility of a Kagurabachi theatrical event is not impossible. Which, I mean, you can't tell me that a theater full of bocce bros wouldn't be hype as fuck. We're dedicated. Of course, some arcs simply can't function as movies, but what qualifies an arc as movie material? Well, in this video, I'm going to go through each arc and we're going to play a game called Can It Movie? So here's the rules. Here's our criteria we're going by. A general rule of thumb is that an anime movie adapts an amount of chapters usually in the teens. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle adapted 17, 18 chapters. Demon Slayer Mugen Train was 13 chapters. Chainsaw Man Rezi was 14 chapters. We should also keep in mind that these movies usually expand on some things, like beef it up a little bit, if you will. Mainly the fights. Or like a movie's opening scene, closing scenes, a little drawn out. So it's, we at least have an attempt of making this paced somewhat like a movie. Some like establishing shots, stuff like that, you know what I mean? If the chapter count is on the lower side, that would work better. Because it's better to have more things to add in contrast to having more things to remove from the original source material. We don't want any removals in our adaptation, that would suck. Also, Infinity Castle is not a good standard to go by. I highly doubt that they would make a Kagurabachi movie that is over 2.5 hours long. I bet it would be around like 1 hour 40, at most 2 hours. Of course, the logistics of the layout of the anime seasons, like the format of those, will be taken into consideration, but we're going to do that towards the end of seeing if each arc fits the criteria first. Going right in with, well, it would never happen because this arc would be in the middle of season 1, for example, would just ruin the fun of this little thought exercise we're doing. So we're going to save that for the way end of discussing each arc. I'm using the arcs from the Kagurabachi official website, which means there are 5 arcs as of now. The Versus Sojo arc, the Rakuzayuchi arc, the Swordbearer Assassination arc, the Kyoto arc, and the Assault on Kaminabi Headquarters arc. I don't care that some people argue that the second half of Kagurabachi is all the Swordbearer Assassination arc. In my head, no, it's not. Sorry. We're just gonna go with the 5 arcs that the website says. With that in mind, let's start going through each arc and decide, can it movie? So the first arc is the Verse Sojo arc. This arc is 18 chapters, so it is on the higher end of being in the teens, but it still fits that first criteria. But another thing to remember is that the first chapter is actually 55 pages, close to 3 times the normal length of a chapter, because the typical chapters are 19 pages. Plus, chapter 2 is 25 pages, and chapter 3 is 23 pages. Adding the excess amount of pages in the first 3 chapters adds about 2.5 extra chapters worth of content. Meaning the movie of a Verse Sojo arc would actually have to cover approximately 20.5 chapters worth of content, which would be out of our range of the chapter count being in the teens. And the chapter count isn't the only issue. The Verse Sojo arc sets up a lot. It's the first arc of the series. So the first chapter really needs time to breathe and fully set things up. You can't rush the beginning. And then I think everything following is just too much to fit in a movie. Because, like, think about it. We have to establish the world, the characters, the rules, etc. So, like, there's a conflict. We meet Char. Char gets attacked. Char's good. Char gets attacked again. Char's good now, even more shortly lived, because Char gets cornered again, but then Azami is here now to save us. We get all of the Kaminabi lore. All the Sojo stuff is intertwined with this, leading to Chihiro versus Sojo round 1. Char gets taken for real this time. Then there's the whole thing with the anti-Cloud Gadger special forces. Chihiro saving Char, facing off with Sojo again. They have their whole imaginary conversation, lots of dialogue. I didn't even mention Haneo. There's so much going on that there's no way that would fit in a movie. And also, it just doesn't really make much sense for the first arc of a whole entire series to be adapted as a movie, and then have season 1 be the Rakuzayuchi. I think that would be extremely silly. That basically answers our question. So, can it movie? No. Unless... it still kind of can. Kind of. Let me explain. Compilation movie style. The most recent example of this is Jujutsu Kaisen Execution, where it summarized the Shibuya incident and then showed the first 2 episodes of season 3. Of course, Kagurabachi would have nothing to summarize, but it could do something similar to Dandadan First Encounter, where it showed the first 3 episodes of the series, so the first 3 episodes of season 1, and then it had interviews to buff out the rest of the runtime. Kagurabachi is anticipated enough, so I don't think something like this is completely out of the picture, but I'm not sure if I could see this happening really either. So, next arc is the Rakuzayuchi arc. This arc is 26 chapters long. That definitely does not fit the chapter count criteria. Of course, my rules aren't completely set in stone. We can still examine the content to see if they could somehow cut this down. But I'm sure we can all agree that the Rakuzayuchi is way too important and way too much to cut down into a movie if you do all 26 chapters. Because we meet Hakuri, we fight Hiyuki, we invade the Sazanami estate, Hakuri runs into Soya, Shiba goes for the save, goes back to the estate where Hakuri joins them as well, we lose Enten, and then everything that happens during the actual auction goes on. We have the Hakuri stuff, Chihiro meets Yura, Kyora's whole deal, Hiyuki, Shiba, all the Sazanami kids. It's definitely a lot. So you would think that's an automatic no. But, not that I would want them to do this, nor do I think they will, but let's say, hypothetically, there's a 12-episode season 1. It ends on chapter 25 with Chihiro saying that nothing in their plan has gone wrong after losing Enten, and this is our cliffhanger. Then we get a Rakuzayuchi auction movie, which would adapt the remaining 19 chapters. Or we end season 1 with chapter 26, where Chihiro and all of his buddies are doing recon, and the chapter ends outside of the auction house. And then the movie would only have to adapt 18 chapters. This would still be a lot to adapt, but it would be more manageable. It would be a longer movie, though, like on a scale from Chainsaw Man Resi arc to Infinity Castle, it would be closer to the Infinity Castle runtime, which I said shouldn't be our standard to go by. But you can't tell me that this would not be a good cinematic experience. This movie would be, like, super fucking hype. And it could even work in a movie format of having, like, 3 distinct acts, like the typical movie structure, or at least as close to that as it can get for being an anime adaptation of an arc. Act 1 would be everything up until meeting Yura. That's where Act 2 begins, where we get all of our matchups, like Chihiro versus Yura, Shiba versus the Toe, and most importantly, Hakuri versus Soya. Act 3 starts when they all enter the auction house, Hakuri's on the stairs, and shit goes down. So, can it movie? Kind of. Technically no, according to our rules, but yes, if you get a little tricky with it. The full arc couldn't, but if you split it up, then yes, it could. Not that it would be better than episodes, but I actually think that this would be a pretty competent movie. But would they do this? Is this a realistic concept? Definitely not. Next is the Swordbearer Assassination arc. The Swordbearer Assassination arc is 16 chapters. Ooh, this is the first arc that fits our chapter criteria count perfectly. This is a great number. It could also fit a 3-act structure. Act 1 would be Chihiro in front of the Kaminabi, meeting Aruha, and then it ends with the train fight where we first meet Hirohiko. Act 2 starts where we meet Samura. We're throwing down in the temple. Chihiro defeats Hirohiko, and then Act 3 would start when Samura gets Tobemune. This arc has a perfect chapter count and is laid out well enough for 3 acts, but with the content of this arc, I do feel like the weekly experience would be really important for this one. Like the weight of Samura's betrayal, the impact of Aruha's death. I just think it being a movie would take away from that. Plus, the best action would be in Act 2, and there is basically no action in Act 3. It's just Samura soloing both Aruha and Chihiro. This arc is amazing. I love it a lot. But even though it fits our criteria that I set up, I don't think the content would actually make for a very competent and functional movie. So, can it movie? Technically, yes, but no. Also, in this hypothetical where the Versus Sojo arc in Rakuzaiuchi was season 1 and then this would be a movie, that means that season 1 would be like 18 episodes, which would be a strange episode number. Technically 18 isn't impossible, but it's not that common either. Next is the Kyoto arc. The Kyoto arc is 26 chapters, so this does not meet the chapter count in the teens criteria. This arc is tricky though, because there are 3 to 4 chapters, give or take, because it cuts back and forth a bit, with the Kaminabi headquarters. So you could hypothetically be like, well, if we cut some of that off, then maybe it would work, but it does not work. Because you can't remove that portion, because that is when Aruha is revealed to be alive. And then Chihiro realizes that when he is face-to-face with Samura with Hirohiko out of the way. That plays a big part in Chihiro understanding Samura's whole mindset and getting him out of said mindset. You could probably skip past the Azami stuff and some of the Hakuri stuff so we could do the Aruha reveal and then continue in the hotel. And then fully adapt the stuff that this would skip over in the assault on the Kaminabi headquarters arc. But I think you need to have all of that build up to let the Aruha moment have more weight. Okay, so we decided that we can't remove the Kaminabi headquarters stuff, but you could adapt the school stuff in a season of the anime, and then you start the movie in the hotel. But this also does not work. That only cuts down about 5 chapters, meaning it would still have about 21 chapters to adapt for a movie. If you animate the school stuff with Iori prior and then cut out a lot of the beef of the Kaminabi headquarters stuff, then maybe it would be short enough chapter count-wise, but I just think that would be really clunky and would also suck as a fan. Also, in the hypothetical that this arc is a movie, season 1 of the anime, assuming it's 24 episodes, would be Versus Sojo, Rakuzaiuchi, and the Swordbearer assassination, so you wouldn't be able to animate any of the school stuff prior, unless they did like an OVA and then a movie, but that would just be ridiculous. The pacing of this arc as a movie would also be pretty odd. The biggest complaint I've seen about the Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie is the lengthy flashback in the middle of all of the action. This hypothetical Kyoto arc movie would have the same issue, except the flashback would be at the end of Act 1 or so, instead of like in Act 3. Like Demon Slayer. So hypothetically, let's say the acts would be Act 1, we start at the hotel and it's through Samura's flashback. Act 2 starts with Samura pulling up the iconic chapter 74 page. And then Act 3 starts after Hirohiko goes down and Samura and Chihiro are about to face off. I suppose that is a better 3-act structure than the Swordbearer assassination would be, but I think it's just impossible to make this work as a movie. So, can it movie? I think hard no. Absolutely not. A million times no. There's way too many roadblocks. Unless we get a compilation movie. A proper one this time. So not the first 3 episodes and then like behind the scenes interviews. We could have a season 1 recap or even just a Swordbearer assassination arc recap. And then the first 2 or 3 episodes of season 2. And this season 2 would hypothetically be 24 episodes of the Kyoto arc and then the assault on Kaminabi headquarters arc. So our next arc and our final arc is the assault on Kaminabi headquarters. The assault on Kaminabi headquarters arc is currently, as of recording this video, 20 chapters long. That is already not in the teens. So, hypothetically, if season 1 is 24 episodes long and covers the Verse Sojo arc through the Swordbearer assassination, like I said, then season 2 would start with the Kyoto arc. We don't know how long this arc will last, but it seems like we're kind of towards the end. Maybe we'll end around chapter 120. If it does, then season 2 would probably only be the Kyoto arc and the Kaminabi headquarters arc, which is 60 chapters total, just like season 1 would be. So the 5 arcs we have right now would hypothetically be perfect for a simple 24 episode season 1, 24 episode season 2. But if season 1 is, like I said, they could buff up the Kyoto arc enough to make it 12 episodes if they really extend some of it, which there's a lot of opportunity to. It's a lot of fighting. That means the Kyoto arc could be a shorter season 2, so 12 episodes, and then we could make this arc a movie. But then we run into the same problem of our chapter count criteria of the Kaminabi headquarters arc being too long for a movie without animating the earlier parts of the arc in a season. I could argue that if we go with the timeline where the Rakuzaiuchi movie does happen, we would have season 1 is versus Sojo and some of Rakuzaiuchi. Then we have the Rakuzaiuchi movie. Then we get Swordbearer assassination and Kyoto for season 2. This would be too long for a 12 episode season, but too short for 24 episodes. This gives us about 6 or 8 episodes to spare to animate some of the Kaminabi invasion, and then we adapt the rest of the arc for a second movie. This technically could work. Chapters 87 through 99 could work for around 6 to 8 episodes. Let's say the movie starts at chapter 100, which would be a crazy way to open a movie, and then it goes through the end of the arc. But if the arc goes on, hypothetically, to chapter 120, like I threw out, then the chapter count would be too long for a movie, even with the 6 to 8 episodes that would be in our hypothetical season 2. This arc would have to be shorter, ending around chapter 115, which it could. We're not sure yet, because it's not done yet. This movie wouldn't have a great 3-act structure. It would just be balls to the wall fucking crazy. I guess probably Act 1 could technically just start with Yura talking to Soga. Act 2 starts with Soga taking over Yura's body. And then Act 3 is a secret third thing that we aren't sure of yet because those chapters don't exist. I'm going to continue to elaborate, but for now, I'll answer the question. I really had to bend over backwards to make this work. So, can it movie? Realistically, no. But kind of with a grain of salt. So, let's start recapping this. I think there are 4 options to answer our question if Kagurabachi gets a movie. Option 1 is no movie. Season 1 is 24 episodes versus Sojo, Rakuzaiuchi, the Swordbearer assassination arc, and Season 2 is also 24 episodes, and we get the Kyoto arc and the Assault on Kaminabi headquarters arc. Option 2 is we get a Rakuzaiuchi movie. Season 1 is 12 episodes, and it is verse Sojo and part of the Rakuzaiuchi. The rest of the Rakuzaiuchi would get adapted as a movie. Season 2 is Swordbearer assassination and Kyoto, around 18 episodes. Not entirely impossible, but not common. Season 3 is 12 episodes, all of Assault on Kaminabi headquarters, or 24 episodes of the Assault on Kaminabi headquarters arc, and whatever arc comes after it. Option 3 is a Kaminabi headquarters movie. Season 1 is 24 episodes, and it is verse Sojo, Rakuzaiuchi, and the Swordbearer assassination. And Season 2 is 18 episodes with Kyoto, and then some of Kaminabi headquarters, which, like I said, weird episode count, but not totally impossible. Then, the rest of the Kaminabi headquarters is a movie. Lastly, we have our 4th option of 2 movies. Season 1 is 12 episodes versus Sojo and part of the Rakuzaiuchi. The rest of Rakuzaiuchi is a movie. Season 2 is 24 episodes with the Sword Bear assassination, Kyoto, and some of Assault on Kaminabi headquarters. And then the rest of Kaminabi headquarters is a movie. Now let's make our decision. What is the verdict? So let's be honest with ourselves. Option 1, with our 2 seasons, each being 24 episodes, is the only option that logically makes sense. The episode counts of all of the other options were clunky. Options 2 and 3 were definitely clunky if you only do 1 movie. But if we did 2 movies, so option 4, the episode counts wouldn't actually be clunky at all. It'd be either 24 episodes or 12 episodes. But then at that point, you have the arcs themselves would be a little clunky because you would have to partially split them between some of it being in an actual season and some of it being a movie. There were 3 arcs that kind of met the criteria. The Rakuzaiuchi, Sword Bearer Assassination, and Assault on Kaminabi Headquarters. So I'm going to pose and answer some questions. Which movie fit our set criteria the most? Technically, it is the Sword Bearer Assassination arc. It's the only arc that is short enough without splitting anything up. But out of our 3 passable movies, I think this arc objectively functions the worst as a movie. And I didn't even provide it in one of the 4 options I gave because it would make the episode counts real clunky, and I just don't think this arc would function good as a movie. I think you need it to be weekly. So what movie would objectively be the best, putting the criteria aside? I would say the Rakuzaiuchi arc would be. It has the clearest 3 acts, and it is definitely cinematic and grand enough to be a thrilling and satisfying theatrical event. As for Assault on Kaminabi Headquarters, it's hard to fully justify how objectively good the movie would be when, as of creating this video, we're still missing half of the content that would be in this hypothetical movie. So all of this being said, which movie could I see actually happening? What is the most realistic movie? Well, my friends, I think the most realistic movie would be the secret 4th option, which is the Kyoto arc compilation movie that I very briefly brought up. I think genuinely with the arcs that we currently have, the best chance we have of seeing Kagurabachi on the big screen would be a season 1 recap compilation and then the first 2 or 3 episodes of season 2, which would be the Kyoto arc. I think it would be pretty fun. You'd get all of the Iori stuff. We would get to the hotel a little bit. We would have the cool POV through the door.
The door.
You know, the door, the peephole, that. So guys, get AMC A-List and prepare to fill all 4 slots with the Kagurabachi compilation and the season 2 preview movie. Yeah! Not sponsored. We're done. We did it. This was an absolute doozy to make, but I had so much fun with it. Towards the end of this video, I felt a little crazy. I felt like that gif of the guy frantic with the whiteboard because I was just throwing out so much numbers, and I had to do a lot of math for this video. Like, what do you mean? That's crazy. I think a Kagurabachi movie would be a super fun experience, even if it is just a compilation preview. Even if the arcs right now don't really work for a movie, there could always be an arc in the future that works better. We would just have to wait and see. We don't know yet. Subscribe, big subscribe. Ooh, you want to subscribe so bad because I predicted the future. We are going to get a Kyoto compilation movie. Clock it. Like as well. Like I like Kagurabachi, like you like Kagurabachi. Like I like movies, and hopefully you like movies if you watch this video. Comment as well. I love comments. I love reading what people have to say. And I'm curious, which arc would you want to see adapted as a movie? Or do you not like anime arcs adapted as movies? Shout out to Prince Blade Arts on Twitter/X for lending me his artwork for this video. All of the anime style art, that's all him, and it looks freaking amazing. The thumbnail has his art as well. And he is the one that made that super cool Kyoto arc movie poster. I think it looks super awesome. And all of that stuff really added a flair to this video that would not have been there otherwise. So thank you so much, dude. You're awesome. This is my last video of the year. What? So happy New Year's, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. And bye-bye. But we're not done yet. of course, we're not done yet. We're addressing the nations. Pause audio. There we go. Hirohiko Nation, we won, because guess what? Out of all the movies, I said the most realistic would be the start of the Kyoto arc, and guess who's in that? Hirohiko. Yeah, yay, we win, we win. He's gonna be on a movie poster. Our baby's gonna be on a movie poster. Isn't that cool? That's pretty cool. Chihiro Nation, same goes for you, but of course he would be on the poster. He'd be on the poster of any, so. You still win though. I can't wait to log the Kyoto arc movie on Letterboxd, give it automatically 5 stars. Woo!